First of all, I'd like to thank Brad for something that he didn't say. I was sitting there listening to him introduce or start to speak, and he mentioned he didn't have the opportunity to see Mike play. And while I was sitting there, I realized why. He wasn't born yet. So thanks for not making us all feel so old right then. But the other thing too is I asked for some advice on what I should say and how I should say it, and I was told to remember there's three important things. One, keep it short. Two, make it about Mike and not yourself. And the third was no secrets or jokes. So I'm sorry, Mike, I got nothing to say. I'm done. It's over. But anyway, Mike is from Sudbury, Ontario. He's the product of the St. Charles football program and the Sudbury Spartans. And if any of you know or have ever played with guys from Sudbury, there's two things that they all have in common. One is they're incredibly smart, and two, they're tough sons of bitches, right across the board. Mike went on and sort of practiced and perfected his skills in Sudbury. And then in 1982, I was fortunate enough to be the captain of the team at the time, and hadn't heard that Mike was coming because he hadn't decided until a week before training camp to actually come to Ottawa U. And so when he arrived, we didn't know much about him, but once he got on the field, you realized you'd met somebody special. Mike was sort of like the Clark Kent of Ottawa U. By day he was this mild-mannered student, but as soon as he put his gear on, he got on the field, he became this savage, this psycho. He was crazy. And then he started playing, and you'd look at him and say, well, he's not the fastest guy on the team. He's not the tallest guy on the team. He's not the strongest guy on the team. But what he has, and I think every one of you guys that have played and had the teammates and guys like Brad and Chris and people have really excelled, they all have one thing in common. They have a sense. They know where to be, when to be, how to be at the right time, at the right moment, and make the play. And it's in their eyes. So anybody that's played, I know you can look at your teammates, the guys that are exceptional all had that same quality. It's in their eyes. It was a laser, it was a focus. And that was Mike. And so Mike went out in his rookie year to be the first winner for the university of the Peter Gorman Trophy as Rookie of the Year. He went on to be, an all-star. He had 6 interceptions in his first year, and he dominated the defense. He dominated between, the ends and was one of the greatest linebackers ever to play the game for the University of Ottawa. Then Mike, at the end of his third year, ended up, having some problems and headaches, and he was such a dominant player. Went to see a couple of doctors, and the doctors told him the same thing. He said, you know what, you're getting concussions, you're getting headaches. Now, this is in 1984. This is before, there was a lot of science, there was a lot of talk about it. It was back in the days where someone would say, you get hit, you get your bell rung, and they'd hold their fingers aside. How many fingers have I got? And you'd say 2, and they'd say, perfect, get back in there. But in 1984, Mike did something that I think, and guys that played with him thought was incredibly courageous. He thought with his brain and not with his heart. He listened to what the docs had to say. And what Mike did is he walked away from the game after 3 years and being a dominant player. He was constantly on the top list of the guys that the pros wanted. Everybody knew it. But he had the courage to walk away. It's like, climbing Mount Everest. You get 10 meters from the summit. You're the best of the best and you know it. Now you want to actually practice. You want to try your skill against the next level. And it's right there. You can touch it. You can feel it. But Mike had the courage and the foresight to walk away. Now I got to tell you, I played with Mike. Mike's a great friend of mine. I don't think I would have had that courage. And so when I look at him, I just think how proud I am of what he did and the strength that took. And what that ended up doing, if we go to the next slide, is Mike then left Ottawa U and dedicated his life to the young men of Sudbury, Ontario. And what he did is, for 30 years, he has coached, he has mentored, he's helped mold and frame the character of generations of young men, which the University of Ottawa has benefited from them coming here and playing ball for Ottawa. Mike also, while he's coaching for 30 years and teaching and mentoring these young men, started in the Joe McDonald football program, which he's still the president of to this day. So I tell all of you, if you had your sons and your daughters and are looking for an exemplary role model, somebody that wants to teach you how to be a leader, how to teach you about character, teach you about morals and ethics, you don't have to go any further than looking at Mike Fabiilli. And you think about these kids that had the chance and where they want to go and what they want to do. If you're with Mike, statistically, you don't have to be a master's in math here. Look at those stats. On average, every 3 years, Mike produced champion team, the championship team, every 3 years, consistently for 30 years. So today I have the honor of introducing Mike, one of the most courageous athletes I've played with, by some of the decisions he made off the field and not on it. Everyone knew he was one of the best that ever played, but it's what he's done off the field that I think even makes him better and makes him a hell of a role model for the rest of us and us former athletes. So, Mike, I would ask you to come up.
Thank you, Brock, for your kind words. Brock was our team captain my first 2 years, and he was a great leader, great motivator, and someone to always look up to. And you took care of me as a rookie, and not only myself, a bunch of other rookies, but you were a great man. I thank you. And Marcy, you have a great man there. Mesdames et Messieurs, premièrement, j'aimerais remercier l'administration de l'Université d'Ottawa pour leur support du programme de football. La université est reconnue non seulement pour leur excellent programme académique, mais aussi pour leur programme athlétique, surtout le football. Je me considère chanceux d'être un de ces étudiants athlètes qui profitaient de l'éducation que j'ai reçue ici à l'Université d'Ottawa. As part of being a teacher, I've got the French department helping me, so I had my students. There's a few students in my classes, and I would go through it, and I was practicing, and they were all very helpful, so I got through it, thank God. I'd like to, I'm very grateful to members of the Hall of Fame committee for selecting me. It's a very great honor, and I'll treasure these moments for the rest of my life. Over the past few months, I've also had the pleasure of speaking to members of the Sports Services Department, and in particular, Mr. Stephen Drover. Thank you, Stephen, for all your patience and your kindness and helping me, and you're doing a fine job at the university. Congratulations to fellow inductees Chris Bant and Brad Sinopoli. We're all going to be joining a very impressive group of members in the Hall of Fame. To Coach Jamie Barisi and the Ottawa GG football team, I want to wish you all the best next year, this coming season. Always remember, once a GG, always a GG. To my friends, teammates who've come down, a lot of you travel from Sudbury, I want to say thank you for coming here tonight to help me celebrate this day. Your being here is very much appreciated. To my two brothers, Carmen and Vincent, thank you for being my big brother to me and always being there for me. I love you both. To my parents who are not here, I know they're up there watching down and smiling at this moment. Both of them came from Italy, in the 50s, and hardworking people. And they raised a family, and it was through hard work. And I think that's what rubbed off on me, is through the hard work and dedication that I saw in both my mother and father. They never really understood the game of football. And they come from a village up in the mountains, and all they would see was rams, button heads all the time. And then they would say, why are you playing this crazy game? And it wasn't for my older brother, Carmen, started playing football, and he played at Laurentian University, and that was way back in the late 60s, and I think Laurentian didn't have a football team very long. I think Ottawa beat them 68-0 one time. But my mother did go watch a game to watch him play, and he got hurt, and that was it. She never ever came and watched a football game. My brother Vince started playing football, but he lied. He would tell my parents that he was studying after school in grade 11. He was at the library every day, you know, and my parents believed him until one day, it's true, until one day at work, at lunch, a gentleman comes up to my father and says, hey, your son kicked a game-winning field goal in a football game for St. Charles College. And so when he came, my dad come home, he said, geez, I guess you're really studying a lot. So I hope your grades are really good. I always wanted to play football from a young kid. And when I was in I was grade 6 and 7, Italians, you got to understand Italian parents. My brother lived in Ottawa. My older brother lives in Ottawa, lives across the street from Lansdowne Park. My mother every summer would have to come down because she had to clean his apartment and do the windows and all that stuff. So I said, I'm going to come too, because I would go to Ottawa and I'd sneak out and I would go watch the Ottawa Rough Riders practice every day. And I remember, going out to practice. I knew the time. I would sit in the stands and I'd watch. I loved the Ottawa Rough Riders. There was Tony Gabriel, Jim Koo, Jeff Turcotte, Jim Piaskowski from Sudbury, Ray Nettles, Jeff Avery was there playing, and I said, oh my God. I remember at one practice, I saw George Brancato come out. I was just a little guy. I went up to him, I asked him for his autograph, and I said, Coach, one day I want to play for the Ottawa Rough Riders. And he said to me, you never know, son. You'll never know. And I just said, oh my God. So I started playing football in 1977. I went to a high school where I'm teaching at right now at St. Charles College. And it was an all-boys school. We had 500 boys, and it was, and a little small Catholic high school. And I went out for to play junior football. We had 80 kids trying out for the junior football team, and my old coach, Chris Barlucci, was coaching then with Dino Delbin. 80 kids, and I'm going, oh my God, I don't know if I'll make this team. There's so many kids trying out. So, Chris, after about a week, we kind of whittled the team down, and Chris gets a sheet of paper and he reads off, all you guys go play offense, okay? I'm listening, I guess I'm not playing offense, and then reads the other list, all you guys go play defense. My name's not even called. I said, oh my God. So I went up to Chris, I said, Coach, you never called my name. He goes, who are you? I'm Mike Fabiilli. Is your brother a kicker for us a couple years ago? I said, yeah, and he said, can you kick? I said, no, I can't kick. Oh, and I said, oh no. He says, how much you weigh? I weigh 150 pounds. Go play defense. And that's what I did. I started playing defense. And St. Charles was, like I said, we had a bazillion fathers there. We had dedicated teachers like Chris Barlucci, Dino Delbin, Brian Sepatelli. We had good priests, Father Black, Father Higgins, Father Lone. Our school didn't have much, but they taught us a good education. We had to, our backyard when I played senior football, we would just practice in sand. That was it. So when we went to play games on grass, it was like a luxury for us because we always practiced in mud. And in those times when I was in, grade 10, 11, the Sudbury Spartans, it was a men's league. And I was a team statistician for them. And I used to talk to Sid Forrester. And I asked him, Sid, I'd like to play for the Sudbury Spartans. He said, well, you're too young. So I bid my time. And all of a sudden, in grade 12, he came and watched one of our football games, and Sid says to me, you're ready to play for the Sudbury Spartans. So I tried out, I went out for practice, and we started around this time. We had 2-day practices, and I had to lie again to my mother. She said, I went to practice, I came back, she says, where are you going? I just going to baseball practice. So I showed her my baseball glove. But the Italian community, they always talk. So she says, you're playing football, aren't you? I said, no, I'm not. She says, So next morning I'm going to go to football practice. She says, if you go to practice, I'm kicking you out of the house. I went to practice. I come back home. I come to the door's locked. I knock on the door. My mom's looking at me, she's shaking, no. Within 2 minutes, she opened the door and she let me in. I always knew, when kids tell me when I'm coaching football at our school and they say, my mom won't let me play, I always tell them this story with me. They're going to let you play, just be persistent. At that time, the Sudbury Spartans was all a bunch of older players. I was only in grade 12. I just finished grade 12. I think I was 18 years old, and Sid, asked me to come out. And all I wanted to do is maybe play special teams. And we had a real good middle linebacker there, and there was 2 Italians. Brian Serafini was the middle linebacker, and Sam Cuban, another Italian, was the outside linebacker. And I figured I'd just make the special teams. And all of a sudden, within about the first week of practice, there I am playing middle linebacker. And I'm going, oh my God. And I had to practice, there's some of the old guys from the 80s, I had to practice against Mike Reed every practice. And you guys know Mike, how intense a player Mike Reed is. And I had to learn very fast. And they were beating me on the trap, an inside trap play. I was getting killed on it all the time. I'm standing there and getting beat up bad. I'm going, I thought, I can't do this job. So I said to Sid Forrester, I said, Sid, just show me on paper how this play works. Once they showed me how that trap play worked, they couldn't catch me on that trap play ever again. And it helped me because when we ran a wing T, and we played against Queens, they ran that wing T. And that fullback, Larry Moore, would be coming through the hole, and I was there to meet him all the time. Anyways, I think with playing with the Sudbury Spartans, it got me, I was game ready. And, we played summer football. Like I said, there was bigger men there, and it was tough, and, and we practiced, 4 days a week, and games on the weekends, and made me a better player. And Joe Moss had come, when I was grade 13, to come recruiting. And I had my mind, I'm going to say it here, had my mind to go play for Queens. I know. And he came up to Sudbury and he talked, and he talked to me a bit about it. And I just said, I had my mind, I'm going to be going to Queens. And about 2 weeks before training camp, I get a call from Joe Moss again. And he says to me, you want to come to Ottawa? I said, no, I'm going to be going to Queens. He says, well, he had that southern accent. He said, we're going to have Dickie Adams coaching us. And I said, oh, geez, Dickie Adams, he played for the Ottawa Rough Riders. And he said, and your linebacker coach is going to be Ray Nettles. And I said, Ray Nettles, Hall of Fame, played for the CFL. I changed mine right then and there. I'm going to go play for the GGs. And that's what I did. I came to Ottawa U as a rookie. And again, I just didn't think I might, lucky if I can, make the special teams and make the team. And we had a good offense that year. We had Hall of Fame quarterback Rick Smitch, all Canadian receivers Craig Walker, Don Burns, and Jamie Breeze was on our coaching staff. And we threw the ball a lot, and we were very successful on offense. Then on defense, Hall of Fame Boyd Young, Nick Dragitsis playing for us, Brendan Gillette. And I just thought, they put me in middle linebacker, and I just did the job. And, there were special times for me that first year. And I remember, Ray Nettles comes up to me and says, I want you to be call the plays, all the defense adjustments. And I'm going, my God, I was just a young kid. I didn't, I did it. I said, okay, I'll do it. When you have Boyd Young breathing down on you and telling you, get the play in, and he's such an intense man, but I got it done. And I just want to say I was very blessed to have an awesome coach in Ray Nettles. He's no longer with us. And he was a special guy to me. We would watch game film all the time. We'd be in the little coach's office, And he would go through all the plays with me, and he was so patient with me, and he was an awesome teacher for me. He had a husky that always would sit with him. He'd be chewing tobacco, and I'm going, oh my God, And it was, it was a good year. We had a good team that first year. We lost our playoff game against Queens. We should have won that game, but we still talk about that game at our touchdown dinners and whenever we get together with the boys again. And as Brock said, my second year I had a successful year. In my third, I started again, these headaches. I got, hit in practice, and you just kind of shake things off, and I kept on trying to play, and just the headaches got really bad. And and when we finished the season off, I came back in my fourth year, and we had a new coach, Jim Daly, there, and I said, it's going to be good. We had Gord Reber. I know that he was a new recruit, and I said, oh, and Jim Daly. I heard so many good things about Jim Daly. I said, maybe we're going to have a good team this year. And in practice again, I got another concussion, and it was bad. And I don't know, like headaches for 2-3 weeks. I just, you don't want to do nothing. I just want to stay in my room. And thank God at that time, she's my wife, my girlfriend. She came over and visited me, stayed with me for 10 days to help me out, because I went to see some doctors, and they just told me, I think it's time to quit, and that's what I did. I got my degree from the University of Ottawa, and I finished my undergraduate, got my teaching certificate, and then I went back to St. Charles and became a teacher. I've been very blessed to work with such good people at St. Charles College. I got to coach with my athletic director, Brian Sepatelli, Mike Fox. I've got some good teachers, or some people on my coaching staff right now. I got Mike Venturi, who's a lawyer, who played at U of T, and he's the voice of reason on our team. I got Dr. Mike Staffen, who's also a graduate from Ottawa U, and he played some football at Ottawa U. I got Rob Zanata, that I've been coaching with for a few years, and I think he's the one that's keeping me young and telling me I'm not retired yet. Soon, Rob. I've got an awesome athletic director in Mr. Darren McLuty, and I just keep on giving him the football bills. He just keeps on paying them. And I got to work with my old coach, Chris Barlucci, my first football coach. And Chris and I worked together for 20 years, and a lot of those city championships is with a lot of credit goes to Chris Barlucci. And I got to say, when you have two Italians on the sideline, you want to talk about the amount of tension there. I got to say a funny story, because we were playing, Paul Gauthier was here, and he's a graduate. We were playing Notre Dame. He's a teacher at the Catholic French High School in Sudbury. And we're playing the city championship game, I don't know, it was 98 or something, 1998, and we're winning 8-0. And there's about a little over a minute left in the game. It's 3rd and long, and Chris and I, he does the offense, I do the defense, and I think Notre Dame had called a timeout, and I said, oh, okay, we're going to punt the ball, because, it's a little over a minute. We've got an awesome punter on our football team. He's going to boom the kick, and and we're going to have defense is playing well. We'll just run the clock out. So I'm just sitting there. All of a sudden, when we throw the ball, it's like an adventure. Anyways, I see the quarterback getting the ball. I see the quarterback getting the ball. Doesn't he throw the ball over the middle? Notre Dame picks it off, runs it back for a touchdown. This is a city championship game. It's 8-6 now, and if I could have killed somebody that day. I walked right by Chris. I said, what the hell did you do? And I couldn't yell at him anymore, because now they're going for 2. So, anyways, thank God they missed the extra point, the 2-point conversion, and we ended up winning the game, and it was great. There's one person that I want to mention that he's not here tonight is Mr. Perry DeLise, and he's a real good friend of mine. And we grew up together, well, we went to high school together at St. Charles College. And he's an awesome, my best friend. And Perry has been working with the alumni department at at Ottawa U here, and he's raising a lot of money for the capital program. And he's a very good friend of mine. He couldn't be here tonight because his daughter's confirmation is in Toronto tonight. I think I got everything. Just in closing, I'd like to introduce my Hall of Fame to you. First of all, my two boys, Michael and Christopher. I love you guys very much, and Dad's very proud of you. And I would just want to say, may God continue to bless all the things that you do. And to my beautiful wife, Joanne, we just celebrated our 26th wedding anniversary 2 days ago. She's the wind beneath my wings. She's always been there for me. I want to say I love you and thank you for everything. And I just want to end by saying merci.
Mike, if you'd have been a kicker, you'd still be playing. We raised a good Catholic boy. He lies to his mother and lies to his father. And I'd make that call again 100 times because the kid would have been wide open if he'd run the right route. Congratulations, Brad, Chris, Mike, three very worthy Hall of Fame candidates. I'd especially like to recognize Mike this evening as a former student, athlete, co-coach, colleague, and friend. Mike has always played with tenacity, coached with integrity, and taught with compassion. While some adopted a win-at-all-cost philosophy, Mike saw a greater good in playing within the rules and taught that success is not only measured by the score on the board, but also by the lessons that could be learned from winning and losing and how those lessons translate into being a productive citizen. He continues to stress character development as an element of fair play and leadership as a necessity for success both on and off the field. Mike believes that athletics can be an excellent forum for teaching today's youth about discipline, dedication, persistence, and integrity. All valuable lessons for being a citizen who contributes to the well-being of their community. To that end, it gives me great pleasure to introduce for the first time tonight the Mike and Joanne Fabiilli Hall of Fame Entrance Scholarship. This annual $1,000 scholarship was generously created by Mr. Perry DeLise, his wife Sue, son Nicholas, and daughter Taylor, longtime friends of Mike and Joanne, as a way of recognizing Mike's football success and induction into the Gigi's Hall of Fame. Sorry, a little nervous. Yeah, tough crowd. To be eligible for the scholarship, the applicant must A, be a Canadian citizen, permanent resident, a person with protected refugee status, or international student, be recognized as a full-time undergraduate student at the University of Ottawa, be a student athlete as per the CIS and OUA regulations, be a member of the Gigi's football program at the University of Ottawa, and most importantly, demonstrate outstanding potential for his sport, which include qualities of leadership, integrity, honesty, dedication, and a die-hard attitude, traits that Mike Fabiilli exhibits in his teaching, coaching, and everyday life. Unfortunately, as Mike said, Perry and his family could not be here due to a previous family commitment, but they do want to extend their congratulations to Mike, and as a token, they'd like to present Mike. Come on up, Mike. With this commemorative plaque recognizing the scholarship. Okay? And Mike, from all your friends, your family, past, present, and future GGs, we'd like to congratulate you on your remarkable achievement and sincere generosity. Congratulations.